lesson for today is Bloom's Taxonomy. Introduction.
Imagine that you are already working as a teacher. How would you feel if you enter your classroom without specific learning outcomes? How would you proceed without clear and specific targets? Being sure about your learning outcomes will help to facilitate learning effectively with appropriate, clear, and specific learning outcomes. You do not need to guess nor grope in the dark on what to accomplish. This module will present the original and the revised Bloom's Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. Although the revised taxonomy came out a year ago, it is important to still present both the old and the revised to have a complete understanding and a better appreciation of the taxonomy used in education.
Ang Bloom's Taxonomy ay ang ginagamit ng mga guro sa mga bata upang madaling maintindihan ng mga bata ang mga lesson na binibigay ng guro na nagdidepende sa level ng mga bata na nagsisimula sa grade 1 hanggang makatapos sila.
For today's, let's talk about the old taxonomy.
In 1956, the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, the Classification of Educational Goals Handbook, Cognitive Domain was published. Initially, the purpose was simply to have a framework to classify test questions that faculty members shared. Eventually, it became so relevant and useful in education. Since then, it has been useful in planning and curriculum, planning learning activities, and assessment. So, in 1956, doon ay sagawa yung pinakaunang book about taxonomy na pinamagatan The Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. Yung purpose nun is makaroon yung framework yung mga teachers para alimin yung mga test questions na binibigay nila. Ngunit naging napaka-relevant nito, naging napakahalaga ito sa education. Mula noon hanggang ngayon, ito na yung model na ginagamit para mag-plan curriculum, iplano yung mga learning activities na gagamitin at yung mga assessment. Bloom's Taxonomy was a model that described the different levels of learning outcomes that target what skills and competencies the teachers aim to develop in the learners. The taxonomy in the cognitive domain contains the 6 levels progress from simple to more complex levels of thinking. So, yung Bloom's Taxonomy, isa siyang model na dinescribe yung mga levels of objectives ng isang teacher. Halimbawa, sa classroom, si teachers meron mga objectives na kung saan nais niyang magtunan ng mga estudyante at meron siyang 6 cognitive domain na nagsisimula sa simple to complex. Habang paliit ng paliit habang lumalaki is mahirap na, from basic to complex.
So, hi everyone, I am Princess Izzy Bumaget, and this time let's talk about the original Bloom's Taxonomy. So, the original Bloom's Taxonomy has 3 domains, which are the cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. When we say cognitive domain, ang ginagamit ng mga learners is yung mind nila. And when we say affective domain, nag-focus naman siya sa emotions, or it involves the emotion of the learners. And when we say psychomotor, the learners are hands-on, or it involves movements or actions. So, the original Bloom's Taxonomy is naka-focus siya sa cognitive domain. So, under the cognitive domain, dito napapasok yung sinasabi nating levels of learning or the 6 levels of Bloom's Taxonomy. So, tandaan natin sa Bloom's Taxonomy, meron siyang KC up on say. Again, KC up and say. So, ibig sabihin, K stands for knowledge, C stands for comprehension, AP stands for application, AN stands for analysis, S stands for synthesis, and E stands for evaluation. Ito yung pagka-sunod-sunod.
So the first one is the knowledge. It involves the recall of specifics and universals. It can define, draw, identify, memorize, and write.
So, ibig sabihin, kaya ng bata na mag-recall ng kanilang napag-aralan. Nare-recall, na-identify, and nare-recognize na pa lamang po. So, for example, the teacher asked the students, what are the parts of the speech? Kapag na-recall or nasagot ng bata yon, that is under the knowledge because na-recall niya pa and nakasagot siya sa tanong ng kanilang guro.
The second is comprehension. It refers to a type of understanding, to explain, to summarize, restate, retell, and illustrate.
So, ibig sabihin naman ito ay ang bata kaya niya nang i-explain or i-restate yung idea niya. Hindi niya kailangan i-recall lang, hindi niya kailangan i-memorize lang, kundi kaya niya pang i-explain, and that is comprehension. So, for example, di ba kadalasan nagpapaquiz si teacher na binabago yung mga definition or yung terms mismo? Bakit yung ginagawa ni teacher? Kasi gusto niyang mag-test na hindi lamang nag-memorize yung mga bata, sapagkat kaya ng bata na mag-comprehend or mag-explain about the topic.
The third is application. It refers to the use, apply, change, prepare, and produce abstractions in a particular and concrete situations.
So, ibig sabihin ng application is ang mga nalalaman ng mga bata ay kaya niya nang gamitin or use. Ibig sabihin, i-apply na. That is application. So, for example, si teacher nag-conduct ng quiz after the discussion. So, yung bata ay may knowledge na about the topic. So, this time, kaya na ng mga bata i-apply kung ano yung natutunan nila, which is kaya ng mga bata na makasagot sa quiz ni teacher, and that is application. Kaya na ng mga bata i-apply kung ano yung mga natutunan nila into a real-life situation.
The next is analysis. It represents the take apart, subdivide, or break apart.
Pag sinabi natin analysis, kailangan nating isa-isahin or pira-pirasahin yung mga ideyas. So, for example, sa the parts of the speech no nga gihambal ko kagaina. So, we have the noun, pronoun, adjective, adverb, and verb. So, bawat part sa speech, kailangan natin matutunan or isa-isahon gid para mas lalo natin maintindihan.
Next is synthesis. It involves the putting together or combining of elements and parts to form a whole.
Okay, pag sinabi natin synthesis, ibig sabihin combine. After nating ma-analysis, pwede na nating pagsamasamahin kung ano yung mga connect or connection nila sa isa't isa. That is synthesis.
The last one is evaluation. It refers to assess, appraise, critic, judge, and recommend.
Pag nandyan na ang evaluation, nandyan lagi ang judge and justify. So, nag-rate ka na, nag-judge ka na, and nag-a-assess ka na. And that is evaluation. Kaya nang mag-evaluate. So, again, the cognitive domain levels are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation under the original Bloom's taxonomy.
So, good morning everyone. Good morning ma'am. So, I am Lynette Sibantillo from BA 2. So, today I'm going to report the revised taxonomy. So, dito natin malalaman kung ano nga ba yung mga changes na nangyari sa old taxonomy at dito sa revised taxonomy. So, after 45 years since the publication of Bloom's taxonomy, so after 45 years since na-publish po yung Bloom's taxonomy, si Lauren Anderson, Bloom's former student, and David Cratwell lead a new group of experts to work together. So, si Lauren Anderson at David Cratwell, sila pong dalawa ay nagtulungan upang i-lead yung groups of expert, and that was the result, or yun po yung result ng tinatawag nating revised taxonomy. Let's proceed to the salient differences between the old and the revised taxonomy. First, levels or categories of thinking in the old taxonomy were nouns, while in the revised taxonomy, they are verbs. It is the use of action words instead of nouns was done to highlight thinking is an active process. So, yung difference po ng dalawa, in old taxonomy, ang ginamit po nila is nouns, while in the revised taxonomy, they are used verbs. So, alam naman natin na yung nouns, it is used to identify any of a class of people, places, or things. While ang verbs po, it is a word used to describe an action, state, or occurrence. So, kaya nila ginamit yung verbs sa revised taxonomy para po ma-highlight na yung thinking is an active process. When we say active process, it is the metacognition, the ability to stand back and examine our own thoughts while we engage in them. So, for example, is evaluate instead of evaluation. So, analyze instead of analysis. Kung ginamit doon sa old taxonomy is evaluation, ang ginagamit naman sa revised taxonomy is evaluate. Kung ginamit sa old taxonomy analysis, ang ginamit naman sa revised taxonomy is analyze. Number 2, while the revised taxonomy remains to be in hierarchical levels of increasing complexity, it is intended to be more flexible in that allows the categories to overlap. Hierarchical meanings is different rank or position depending on how important they are. So in revised taxonomy, as we observe later on, meron akong papakitang model sa inyo. So, ma-observe natin doon yung hierarchical models or hierarchical levels of increasing complexity. So, mas nagiging flexible daw po siya if nasa hierarchical level siya. So, in order siya depends to their ranks or position or how important they are sa thinking skills ng isang bata. Number 3. So, the knowledge level change to remember. So, in old taxonomy, yung ginamit po nila in first level is the knowledge. While sa revised taxonomy po, na-change na po siya into remember. So, the change was made because knowledge does not refer to a cognitive or thinking level. Knowledge is the object of thinking. So, remember is a more appropriate word for the first thinking level, which involves recalling and retrieving knowledge. So, mas nagiging appropriate daw po siya na gamitin yung remember kaysa knowledge kasi it involves recalling and retrieving knowledge. Kumbaga, ang isang bata is nakakagawa na siyang mag-recall sa first level thinking, nakakagawa na po siyang mag-recall and mag-retrieve ng knowledge kung ano yung naaalala niya in the past lesson. So, number 4. So, the comprehension level was changed to understand. So, yung second level po in the old taxonomy, yung ginamit po nila is comprehension level. But in revised taxonomy po, is na-change na po siya into understand. So, when we say comprehension kasi po, it is retell or illustrate. So, and then the understand, it is the summarizing. So, teacher are likely use the word understand. So, yung mga teacher po, mas madalas or mas prefer po nila na gamitin yung word na understand kaysa comprehension when referring to their work. So number 5, synthesis was changed to create and was placed to the highest level. So yung sa old taxonomy po, yung synthesis yung ginamit nila. And into revised taxonomy naman, na-change po siya into create. Where yung create po, nasa highest level po siya na thinking skills po na nasa revised taxonomy. So number 6, the cognitive domain now includes 2 dimensions. So, the cognitive dimension and the knowledge dimension. So, sa old taxonomy po, isa lang pong domain yung ginamit niya, which is the old taxonomy. While sa the revised taxonomy naman, meron na siyang dalawang domain, which is yung cognitive dimension and the knowledge dimension. So, dito natin malalaman mamaya sa model na ipapakita ko kung ano yung mga differences ng dalawa para po mas maintindihan nyo ng sakto. So, this is the model of Bloom's taxonomy cognitive domain. So, in old taxonomy po, yung 6-level thinking po is consist of knowledge, first, second, comprehension, third, application, fourth, analysis, fifth, synthesis, sixth, evaluation. So, naintindihan nyo naman kanina doon sa nag-report nito yung kanilang definition. While in revised taxonomy po, meron pong dalawang dimension, which is the cognitive dimension and the knowledge dimension. So, nakapaloob po sa cognitive dimension, yung remember as first level, second is understand, third is apply, fourth is analyze, 5 is evaluate, 6 is create. Nakapaloob po sa knowledge dimension yung factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. So, yung revised taxonomy na cognitive domain po ay ipapaliwanag po ng next reporter po, which is doon yung mas maintindihan kung ano po yung cognitive domain po ng revised taxonomy. That's could be all po. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I am Karen Joy Clarito. I am going to report the revised taxonomy with 2 dimensions of the cognitive domain, Cratwell 2002. Revised taxonomy highlights 2 dimensions, the cognitive and the knowledge dimensions. Cognitive dimensions include the hierarchical or order level of thinkings. The thinkings levels move from the simplest to the most complex. So, the cognitive dimensions has 6 levels of thinking skills. First is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So, by these dimensions, help the teachers to understand and target the various cognitive skills that the student should develop from basic recall of past to the most complex creations of the new ideas. First is remember. Remember is retrieving relevant knowledge from long-term memory, recognizing, and recalling. So remember, the learner is able to recall, restate, and remember learned information. We all know na mga students have a own stock knowledge. So when you ask them, they will able to recall, makarecall sila ng relevant memories from the question you ask. So meron na silang maisasagot sa iyong tanong. So second is understand, determining the meaning of instructional messages including oral, written, and graphic communication, interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, interpreting, comparing, and explaining. So, understand is the learner grasp the meaning of information by interpreting and translating what has been learned. So, after they recall, makakonstruct sila or maka-interpret sila ng paragraph, then maka-answer sila by that they can construct the answer. 3. Apply. Carrying out of using a procedure in a given situation, executing and implementing. So, apply. The learners make use of information in a context different from the one in which it was learned. So, after constructing, they will apply those new idea para maka-construct sila ng new idea for new situation. 4. Analyze. Breaking materials into its constituents parts and detecting how the parts relate to one another and to an overall structure or purpose. So, differentiating and organizing, attributing. So, analyze. The learner breaks learned information into its part to best understand what information. So, the student will analyze that what they apply in the new situation on the new structure they made. Evaluate. Making judgments based on criteria and standards. So, checking and critiquing. Evaluate is the learner makes decision based on in-depth reflections, criticism, and assessment. So, they will make judgment sa kanilang ginawa na analyzations. Number 6. Putting elements together to form a novel, coherent whole or make an original product. Generating, planning, producing. So, create is the learner creates new ideas and information using what has been previously learned. So, the most complex is the create. After all the understanding, they apply the analyzation and the evaluation. They will lastly create the new ideas.
Good day, ma'am. I am Jessica Bayo, the second reporter of Two Dimension. The knowledge dimension includes 4 knowledge categories: factual, conceptual, procedural, and the metacognitive. The knowledge that teachers aim to teach and students aim to learn can be about facts, concepts, procedures, and metacognitive knowledge. First is the factual dimension. The basic elements that students must know: knowledge of terminologies, specific details, and elements. Factual knowledge ay isang foundation of learning na cover yung mga basic information, terms, and details. Kasama dito ang pag-memorize ng specific details, dates, names, and definitions. Itong dimension na ito ay nagbigay daan para makabuo tayo ng solid base na magagamit sa pagpapalawak ng ating higher order thinking skills. Sa pamamagitan ng pagpapalago ng factual knowledge, mas madali natin maintindihan at ma-analyze ang mga complex concepts na tumutulong sa mas malalim at comprehensive na pag-unawa sa anumang subject. Like for example, name 3 planets in our solar system. The second one is the conceptual. The interrelationships among the basic elements within the larger structure that enable them to function together. Knowledge of classifications and categories, principles and generalizations, theories, models, and structures. Sa conceptual knowledge ay tumutukoy sa pag-unawa sa connections ng iba't ibang impormasyon which leads to the creation of broader concepts and mental models. Kailangan nito ang pagkonekta ng mga details para mag-grasp ang mga core principles, theories, and frameworks. With conceptual knowledge, we can analyze, interpret, and evaluate information and gain or deeper understanding of how different elements are interconnected and affect each other. For example, how photosynthesis works, or analyze the factors that contribute to climate change.
Procedural. Subject-specific skills, algorithms, techniques, and methods, criteria for determining when to use
the procedure. So, diri is kailangan tukuyin ang mga kasnayan o pamamaraan at gabay kung kailan gagamitin ito. Halimbawa, kailangan nating bigyan ng hakbang sa pagluluto ng kare-kare.
Hi everyone, I am Gracelyn B. Itong, and now I'm going to report about the practical guide in using the revised taxonomy. When you are ready to plan your units, lessons, or activities, Bloom's taxonomy will be very useful in helping you formulate your learning objectives. Below is a collection of action words and possible activities or work which you can use for your plan. The cognitive dimensions level, sample action words, suggested activities, outputs, or outcomes. So, sa cognitive dimensions levels, this is remember, recalling information, which is recall ang previous lesson sa mga students, enable them to, para may matunan sila in past lessons. And sa sample action words is recall, the names, the describe, states, tell, reproduce, and list, locate, write, find, underline, and define. So, there is a suggested activities, outputs, or the outcomes is the recitations, worksheets, definitions, facts, charts, and list. Sa understand naman is explaining information and concept. Diri explain ang new lesson for the students. Then, sa sample action words is explain, translate, you report, predict, describe, underline, and discuss, and define. So, there is a suggested activities is the pagpahimo sang story problems, drawing, show and tell, then summary using information in a new way. So, there is, if maghatag ka sang information, dapat good and clear for the students. Tapos, sample action words. The use, the solve, implement, then construct, practice, execute, demonstrate, and dramatize. So, sa suggested activities, outputs or outcomes, presentation and role-playing, simulation, collection model, or the scrapbook and product. Analyze, distinguish the different parts of a whole. This is kabuuan or whole topic. Halimbawa, maghimo usang mga story. Titingnan mo ang iba't ibang bahagi tulad ng tagpuan, tema upang maunawaan ang kabuuan ng mensahe or topic. Tapos, there is a sample action word is compare, distinguish, investigate, differentiate, infer, contrast, separate, and sequence. So, there is sa suggested activities, pwede ka magpahimo sang summary survey, chart plan, questionnaire, and spreadsheet. Defending or concept or idea. So, is that there is a evaluate is dili mo na ma-base kung tama o sapat ba ang imo nga idea. Then, there is naman sa defending is i-defend mo ang imong answer if it is truth or not. Sa sample action words is assess, debate, defend, dispute, judge, appraise, check, decide, justify, and rate. So, there is activities is to accept the opinion of the students, judgments, recommendation, report, self-evaluations, position, paper, and critic. Then, there is create is creating something new. Mag-create sang bago nga topic or idea. Then, train sa sample action is train, design, formulate, improve, plan, combine, invent, devise, generate, compose, and propose. So, there is activities or the outcomes is isang framework, model, story, multimedia, presentation, poem, haiku, song, essay. So, that's all.
Uses a revised taxonomy.
The revised taxonomies provide a framework that helps educators in the following ways. Number one, it provides educators with a common set of terms and level about learning outcomes that help in planning across subject matter in grade level. Number two, it helps in the drafting of learning understand across the level. Number three, it serves as the guide in evaluating the school curriculum objective and activities and assignment. Last, it guides the teachers formulating learning outcome that tap higher order thinking skills. The educators a clear way to decide and learning grade. It helps teachers to plan lesson activities and assignment constantly across the different subjects and grades, focusing on building skills from the basic knowledge to critical thinking and creative thinking. By providing clear framework to define what students should know and be able to do, it ensures consistency and progressive in learning grades, making it easier to align standard across grade and subject.